So one of the early storylines of this year's Treefort Music Festival, the new venues and how they would work for the 5-day event. Main shows went from being held in parking lots downtown to one of Boise's most popular parks. We heard rave reviews for the music hall in Bodo and how shows were showcased in Julia Davis Park. However, shortly after the shows, there was concern how the park, specifically the grass, held up with the thousands of people trotting all over it while it rained, mind you. And it did take its toll, but Boise Parks and Rec says it may not be as bad as it looked. Here's Joe Paris.
Nothing pleases a park and recreation director in any community in the country than to see their facilities and parks get used. That's the most important. Build a park and nobody comes is probably not a good thing.
It's that spirit from Boise Parks and Recreation Director Doug Holloway that encourages big events in Boise's beautiful parks. And what better super show idea than to combine Julia Davis Park with the Treefort Music Festival?
It was a great event and it put a lot of money into our economy. And again, that's a big part of Parks and Recreation is what can we do to help drive economic impact within our community.
The word impact, though, drew questions. What would a music festival with thousands do to a park? Add in a week straight of cold and wet weather. Yeah, it took a toll there.
I imagine there's conversations. Okay, we assume there'll be some type of damage.
Oh yeah, we were watching the forecast really close, and so were the Treefort organizers as well. But our response to that is, rain or shine, this event's going to come off, and so let's make the best of how we can make this event work the best for the people that come here, and we'll deal with what the after effects are.
As you can imagine, the grass in high traffic areas basically turned to mud as Treefort fans danced their way through the park and joined live music, shows, and great conversations. And guess what the Boise Parks and Recreation Director thinks about all of it?
That's what a park is for.
But there is a cost to fix the consequences of fun. One that Treefort organizers are totally on board with.
The price tag's about $41,000, and it's come solely from the Treefort usage in the park, the things that we have to do to bring it back up to where it was before the event occurred.
Holloway says
Well, that story was actually supposed to continue. Our apologies on that one, but Brian, the $41,000 price tag is basically paid for by Treefort, and they understand that this was actually an event where this is, in terms of conditions, they thought this is about as bad as it could be in terms of mud and the grass and everything they dealt with. So in the sense that that was, okay, this is what we have to deal with, things are looking good for the future of Treefort Music Fest at that spot. There was another piece of conversation going into Treefort and really throughout Treefort as well about the animals at Zoo Boise. There were concerns maybe to be too loud for them.
Right. I mean, that stage was set up right next to the zoo.
Yeah, and some of those animals, like the giraffe, for example, they have their enclosures outside and they're exposed to, they're exposed to noise, but not usually a live rock show.
When the sun goes down, they're supposed to go to sleep.
And, Treefort, you kind of get more activated.
It's the other way around.
The other way around. But yeah, the Zoo Boise says they had no issues with the animals there. They kept the decibel level low, and they actually had done a lot of work with other zoos around the country saying, hey, if you've had a big music event at your zoo, how did it go? So they knew what the decibel level needed to be. I think it was 75 decibels, so no problems. And the grass is regrowing itself, and it's really I guess it's really resilient out at Julia Davis Park. So
I guess that's the bottom line, is it looked terrible at the time while you were there.
Yeah.
They're going to pay to help replace anything that needs to be replaced, but nature's going to take care of the rest down there at Julia Davis Park. It's kind of what we're led to understand, right?
Yeah. And turfing and seating, there's going to be a little bit of that. The area right outside the Gene Harris band shell, that actually has going to need some turfing that a contractor's going to come in and do. But really throughout the rest of the park, and you can go see it for yourself, it looks pretty normal. They're going to overseed it, as they call it, to get everything ready for the summer events. But Doug Holloway, Boise Parks and Rec, on their end, things look good for Treefort.
So Treefort can expect to be back there next year.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
We'll see, though.
Thanks, Joe.